So I'm Sam Ponsavan. I work with Karen at Natural Lands. I'm the community engagement staff on hand to work in our urban projects. I'm glad to be part of the team here.
And then we'll move to TTF. We'll get the planning team out of the way. Julie, who are you?
Hey, it's so nice to see everybody. I'm Julie Slavitt. I'm the executive director of the Tacony Frankfurt Watershed Partnership. Oh, am I supposed to? No, that's it, right?
That's fine. And Susan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Volz. I'm the Philly community organizer at TTF.
Great. Mary Blease, you are next on my screen.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Bliss Serrano. I'm the community liaison for APM's Community Umbrella Agency located in Juniata.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Ellie.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellie Porter Webb. I am the Deputy Director with the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia.
Great. And it's great to have you here. You were not at the first one, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's good. It's definitely good to have you join. Pedro.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pedro. I'm a project coordinator with PowerCore PHL and also a close resident to the whole Tacony Creek Parkway. So, you know, has a special place in my heart.
Oh, that's great. Aylin.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you today. My name is Aylin Compton. I work with the stewardship team at Parks and Recreation, and I also have the great pleasure of serving on the TTF Board of Directors.
Kiasha.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiasha Tyson. I'm the Director of Economic and Community Development for Councilwoman Sherelle Parker.
Great. Francesco, I think you're next on my screen.
Thank you. And my name is Francesco Gerrai, Parks and Recreation Capital Projects. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Nice to have you. Elaine.
Hey everyone, happy Monday. My name is Elaine Gonzalez Johnson. I am the proud founder of Latinas in Motion, where we literally run the world.
I love it, Elaine. That's great. And you definitely run the park, which is important.
Amen, we do.
Priyanka.
Hi everyone, I'm Priyanka Malik, project coordinator for this particular project, trying to move things forward with TTF and Natural Lands. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here, Priyanka. Chris Park.
Hi, I'm Chris Park. I'm the GIS coordinator for Parks and Recreation, and I take care of all the mapping data and geospatial data for Parks and Recreation.
Great, it's good to have you, Chris.
Thanks, nice to be here.
And finally, John Buffington. John is still on mute. You know what, John, if you just want to write in the chat when you can, just give a little introduction, that would be great. But otherwise we can keep moving on. So I should have had everyone do their icebreaker when we went around with the introductions, but if anyone wants to jump in and just say favorite park or other outdoor destination, it does not have to be specifically in this area, and you're not required to say Tacony Creek Park. Who wants to go first?
May I correct myself?
Absolutely.
Please go ahead, John.
I apologize. I accidentally muted myself when I signed in. You probably didn't hear me yet. I'm John Buffington. I represent the Historical Society of Frankfurt. Frankfurt grew up because of its proximity to this watershed. And we are very much interested in making sure that that history is included in what happens in this master plan.
That's such an interesting comment about how Frankfurt grew up because of its proximity. Can we go off subject for just a couple minutes? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. What we know for sure is that there was a mill present in 1660 on Frankfurt Creek, which was built by Swedes. New Sweden was just at the end of its life at that point and had been taken over by New Amsterdam, but I don't think there were any Dutch people ever here. It was Swedes who preceded both groups preceded the Quakers who basically took over as soon as William Penn did, or very soon thereafter. But our mill. That mill was the place that drew European settlement in the first place.
Wow. Sorry about that. Thanks, John. That's really interesting. And we will absolutely be talking more with you about all of this and all your knowledge about the park. I'm really excited to have that conversation. Actually, John, while we have you, why don't we start with you? Your favorite park or outdoor destination?
Ringing Rocks Park in Montgomery County.
Got it.
Fabulous place.
Has anyone else been there? I've heard about it, but I have not gone with a hammer to see what happens. All right, thanks, John.
Go and take kids. Find some kids and take them with you.
I can do that. There's plenty around. Julie, what is your favorite outdoor destination?
Oh, well, other than Tacony Creek Park?
Yes.
It's Grand Manan Island in New Brunswick.
Where you just were, right? Okay. Susan, what about you?
My favorite outdoor destination, a little Clark Park. It's right by, I live right by Clark Park, and it's a very nice spot to go chill.
Clark Park is a very nice year-round, pretty much. Mary Bliss.
Yes, I was gonna say Penn Treaty Park. That's the closest, safest park I can get to from my area here on G and Tioga.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a bike ride, but
right.
It's nice.
And that park is now connected by bike trails, correct? To other areas of the city. Is my understanding correct? I thought I saw a nod.
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah. It's an odd bike trail. It's like going right by a power plant, but
it's not done yet.
That's why.
The Delaware River Trail isn't done yet.
Right. Thanks, Mary Bliss. Sang, what about you? I think I know your answer.
I mean, I like every park, obviously the ones I work on, but I also really enjoy taking time out to go to Ridley Creek State Park.
Yes. Absolutely. Ellie, what about you?
I don't know about favorite park, but I got to enjoy just riding down the Schuylkill River Trail this morning and seeing kind of the beginnings of fall. So that felt pretty magical today.
Absolutely. And it's pretty much cleaned up now, right?
In the city, yes, there are parts of it farther out that are not, but
okay.
And when I say in the city, I know at least from East Falls in, but I think kind of beyond, actually once it goes outside of Philadelphia County, I believe it's not.
Got it. I drive up Kelly Drive a lot, and it was insane how much work was being done. How many different companies all came together to start cleaning that up. So, Aylin, This will be an interesting answer.
Well, I know we're not supposed to say Tacony, but I do want to give a shout out to the really beautiful meadow right at East Fishers Lane. I think that's one of my favorite pockets of parks in the whole city. And I am not allowed to pick favorites, but that's definitely top of my list. It's such a beautiful meadow where I think there's probably some rogue fire ecology going on that makes the botany really beautiful and interesting. And it's a really great place where I think many, many people have connected to the bird populations we have in our city for the very first time at that meadow. And so I think it represents so much of what Philly's natural lands and open spaces do for this city, all in this like one little, it's probably less than an acre meadow. It's a very, very special place in our city.
That's great, Ann. Hi, Ann. Everyone, this is Ann Toole. She is part of the planning team also. Ann, do you want to introduce yourself? And then our icebreaker question is just what your favorite park or outdoor destination is.
Okay, thank you. I'm just delighted to be here. I love working on this project. It's just such an honor. What I do is I'm a Parks and Recreation planner, and what I focus on are kind of the things that make the park work, like maintenance, programming, financing, partnerships, all those things that long-term give the park life and support a wonderful design. So this is a great project to get to work on. I am thrilled. My favorite destination is I love being either on the Delaware River or the Schuylkill River. They're my favorites. I just love spending the time on the river or next to the river on a trail, riding my bike. So those are my favorites. Thank you.
Ambrose, I just saw that you joined. Hello.
Hi, I'm sorry. I got caught up making lunch for my kids, and yeah, so here I am.
Ambrose, not a problem. I've been there over these past 18 months. So, Ambrose, can you introduce yourself? And then while you're doing that, you could also tell us your favorite outdoor space. Give us a little information about yourself.
Well, I'm the founder and project director of Albany Culture Lab of Culture Trust Greater Philadelphia. Culture Trust is our fiscal sponsor, and they're an umbrella organization for many other cultural projects like ours. Hold on one second.
No problem. Pedro, maybe we'll move to you and give Ambrose some time.
My favorite, well, one of my favorite parks is up there in the Roxborough Reservoir. Beautiful place to walk, great scenery, and it just has a nice view of the city that's very unique.
Kiasha?
Hi, my favorite outdoor space or destination is any beach, as long as there's sand, water, and the sun.
Okay, I like it. Chris, what about you?
As the GIS person for Parks and Rec, I don't have a favorite, but I will say that I recently discovered John Hines down in the southeast or southwest, and it's pretty amazing. So I want to go back and check that out some more.
That's great. Elaine.
So I don't know if this is cheating, but I just did a 10K in Aruba this past June, and it was the most magical thing I've ever done, guys. I like to take these, what I call runcations every year. And so I've ran in Canada, we've ran in Puerto Rico, but Aruba, like the weather was amazing. The view was actually amazing. It was just a vibe. So I don't know if it was supposed to be PA, but Aruba for sure.
You were allowed to open this up, and I appreciate that. And I've never been to Aruba, so now you've convinced me I might need to
Karen,
go.
you must go, okay?
I'll put it on the list. Francesco.
I like a lot the Wissahickon Valley Creek Park because I'm a mountain biker. I like to go there, and there are so many hidden spots that people maybe don't know unless you go on the trails. There are wonderful secret things to see, statues, huts, buildings. So I recommend everybody to explore.
Definitely. And Priyanka.
I can think of Central Park only because I visited New York recently and I have a toddler. So amidst all the New York City hustle bustle, that park was such a respite. It had places for kids. It had places for where me and my husband could sit and relax. So that just comes to my mind as of now.
Mhm. And then I realized I haven't answered. So I will say Tacony Creek Park, but since we're going to be talking a lot about Tacony and how unique it is and just so fun to explore and such a resource and kind of an undiscovered resource, I'm going to say something else, which is in Fairmount Park, there is, I'm forgetting the name, but it is the Frisbee golf area. And I've been there a couple times with friends. It is so fun, but I'm specifically saying it because there was one time and it was evening and the sun was going down and there's kind of these ruins that are all graffitied, but it's very beautiful. And right in that spot with the sun going down behind it, there was probably a 12-point buck just standing regally staring at us. And it was just this pretty incredible moment. And all the kids I was with were blown away. And it was just kind of wonderful to have that experience in an extremely urban area. So that's my story for today. But now we've gotten through this, unless Ambrose is ready to jump
Yeah,
back
I have
on.
a couple seconds here.
Okay.
Long story short, Albany Culture Lab is we're a cultural organizing, producing events organization that likes to celebrate the diverse ethnic and cultural expressions found in our neighborhood, from dance, music to food and open spaces, etc. We've been collaborating a lot with Tacony Creek Park, so I'm biased to say that's like my favorite place. Well, it's like a tie with Fisher Park, because Fisher Park is they're all part of the same watershed. But aside from that, because those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Off the top of my head, I had a really wonderful trip up to Maine at Acadia, and I sat on a beach by myself in the sort of late winter there, and that was a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Ambrose. All right. So we wanted to start with giving you all some project updates, where we are in this process. And for some of you, this is more than project updates. This is kind of a project explanation. So we'll keep that in mind. And I wanted to start with kind of a recap of the stakeholder site walk that a few of you took. I know Priyanka was on it, Ellie was on it, and see if there were any thoughts that those of you who attended wanted to share with the rest of the group about your experience walking the park. And also kind of get a summary from Julie, who was talking with everyone while walking with everyone, and may be able to give a summary of perception, feedback, input. So anyone who did attend, would you be willing to just talk for a few minutes about your experience?
I'll jump in from my perspective as a new person. This was my first time on the trail, and things that stuck out to me, I guess, two things. One, I think about the murals under the bridge, just how much that kind of stuck in my head as a really strong image, but also thinking it from thinking about it from a biking perspective, how it is so cool that it's a really great length and you get to see so many different pieces. And on a bike, you could do it in a fairly short amount of time to see so much. So yeah, those are things that stuck out to me.
That's great. Anyone else? If not, Julie, you can definitely feel free to jump in and try to do a recap.
Okay. First of all, thank you for everybody that took the time to walk. People always are like, oh, thank you for taking us, but we consider this part of our job to get people out in the park to see what it's all about. So for the people who missed this, we're happy to do this again. And, you know, I think we've also talked about, we have a bunch of programs, events and regular programs that people are welcome to join us at. You know, I think one of the things that people talked about was really how within, you know, a really busy urban streets and blocks, it's very quiet. You know, people really notice how sort of set aside it is. And when you're in neighborhoods where there's a lot of noise, generally it's pretty quiet in the park. And that's something that people talked about. And then we also talked, you know, and that space and that, you know, that it's sort of surprising how much nature is there, considering how urban it is. I think the other thing that people just talked about was sort of noticing the lack of amenities. And the neglect and you know, of the amenities, the few amenities that are there. So benches, signage, you know, all those kind of things that are really lacking. Those are the two things that sort of stood out for me in terms of what people talked about. You know, the last thing is really sort of the opportunity, and this sort of ties back to the nature and the quiet, which is, I think people are surprised about the kind of vistas that are there. And you know, Ellie talked about the murals. I think there's some surprising things and spots that are really, you know, lovely and inspiring that we could take advantage of more.
Absolutely. Julie, that was it.
Other stuff that I missed that Susan may have recalled, but those are the major things that stuck out. I think the other thing that, you know, that people are always surprised about is that, you know, there's really a lack of knowledge that that the creek is the recipient of regular combined sewage overflows. So, you know, that's the reality. And lots of people in the neighborhood don't know that. Lots of people in the city don't realize that that happens on a regular basis, you know, with the Schuylkill and the Delaware as well.
Saying anything that Julie didn't cover that you kind of listened to or observed when you were on the site walk?
I think Julie hit most of it. And I think I shared this before, but when I was a lot younger, I would go fishing there. And I think when I was there, it had just rained a couple days or so. And so I did notice some of those bridges that were covered. And how I also noticed like people building trails to get to the creek. And I think that's probably would have been something I did when I was a kid trying to fish there. So, and I was not aware of the sewage and things like that. So just to go back, I mean, I've gone back a couple times, but this time I walked it. We walked it for quite a bit of hours. Was something I think with the understanding that I know now, it's a different perspective than when you're a kid and you're going there to fish with your friends.
Right. Thank you. All right. So those stakeholder site walks, we're going to talk more about opportunities, but how often are those held, Julie?
So we generally do a walk a month.
Okay.
You know, we sort of called them a first Friday. When things happen on the first Friday, like I think October, we have something on the first Friday, we'll just do it another time. And again, if people want, if we can pull enough people together, you know, we don't have to have 10 people, we'll do it with 3 or 4 people. So if people want to do that again and bring, you know, anybody else, that's, you know, we feel like that's part of our mission, is to get people out to see what it looks like.
Right. And it's just a great opportunity to walk with someone who's very knowledgeable about the park programming, park usage, everything, and experience the park on your own. So we wanted to talk about that. And then a few other project updates. So we'll talk about the site analysis that's ongoing, pilot projects, community engagement stipends, the online survey, and finally, I just wanted to give you all an updated timeline on where we are. So let's move forward. So the site analysis is something that Natural Lands is going to be preparing the visual of. So part of our role is we're going to be creating the graphics for not only the final report that will be submitted as part of this master plan, but also for kind of giving the general public, when we have public meetings, an idea of what's going on in the park, what the ultimate final master plan is for the park. So a key thing is the site analysis, which will be a visual depiction of existing conditions and baseline data within the park. So some of the key items that are going to be somehow synthesized visually on this site analysis plan will be access, circulation, environmental conditions such as plant communities or natural features that are on the site, built structures, destinations or gathering spaces that we observe, the site amenities that Julie already talked about, where there is signage, where there are benches, or just other amenities for people visiting the site. But then there's also some other items that somehow need to be incorporated into the site analysis, and that will be general site usage, what we observe in terms of how people are using the park, where people are more often on bikes, for example, where people are creating off-trail trails, such as Sang was just talking about, to get to the river. So just this type of observation as well. And then looking at potential hazards or safety concerns would be a key thing of the site analysis. But then on the other hand, opportunities. So this is a big thing. I did not feel prepared to show it to you today because it's still very much a rough draft. I've been out to the site now on multiple occasions, kind of gathering information. We're also gathering information in other ways. We have bike and pedestrian counters that are already up at different points along the trail. So we're gathering information about the frequency of usage and what type of usage it is. And we also want your input on this. So when you are visiting the trail, however that might be, or the park, feedback that you give us can and will be, if possible, incorporated into the site analysis, which eventually, along with a lot of other input and information, will be creating the final master plan for this. So I just wanted to explain that process and where we are with that, which is that it is underway and it's ongoing, but it will be incredibly useful to have your input as well to prepare that. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay.
If I may, I don't see anything. Opportunities is probably where my issue lies.
Okay.
it would be real nice to have archaeological sites along the trail identified specifically as this goes.
And John, are there sources, like key sources or resources for finding out more about those locations?
His name is Fred Maurer.
Oh, Fred, yes. Okay. I have not met Fred, but I do have an enormous amount of documentation from him. So that will be great to sift through. I already began, but there is a lot. Julie's nodding.
We're going to do an interview with Fred.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
You will be glad.
That's great, John. Thank you so much for that. Any other things that I didn't include in these key items that people are thinking of for the site analysis? This is including but not limited to this list. Just some things I was throwing out there that I've already been looking at.
I just want to, this is Ambrose speaking. I neglected to mention that we are a very close partner with TTF, and we've consulted with Julie and the team on different types of activities and events that we've done in the space, on behalf of the space, and then in turn we've initiated our own activities, cultural and otherwise, in the space as well. So I gather that those are probably fall under site usage. But I would love to find a way to create a simple tool that we can then deploy whenever we do any events there, that we can maybe gather some simple bits of information on behalf of master planning. Yeah, because we've had some success lately engaging with people and getting them come out. So it would be a great opportunity to get a diverse spectrum of voices.
Right. And Ambrose, when you say a tool,
I don't know
what are you thinking?
I don't know. It could be like a simple, like 3-question survey, or just like a little. I mean, paper. I mean, we could do paper, but maybe it's virtual, digital. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yasha has her hand raised.
Oh, okay.
She's very polite.
Yes.
That just started today. I'm learning to better use these features. That just started today. Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask a question. Are the impacts of the park, so is there an item on this list that examines all the other things going around outside of the park? So the external factors that impact the conditions at the park and accessibility and how people feel about the park. Does that fall under one of these categories?
So in terms of, okay, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is how that's visually depicted and how I am going to create that graphically, or whether I'm going to create that graphically. That might be something that more becomes part of the narrative. So as we gather all of this information, we need to figure out how to synthesize it in a way that makes the most sense. But in terms of looking at outside factors, that's a key thing that we are concerned about and considering with this plan.
Okay.
So something that you just mentioned, which was access, that is something that we have been talking about since the beginning. Not only how do people physically get to the park, but how do they get to know about the park, because there seems to be no matter how much TTF is doing, which is so much to kind of publicize and talk up the park and engage with the community, there still seems to be a disconnect with many of the people nearby where they're not using the park. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. Julie, I saw you kind of nodding your head. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think part of what we're trying to do, Kiasha, is understand, you know, we've been trying to do this all along, is understand how many different communities are around the park and neighborhoods. And I think that's the challenge and why we're trying to, you know, why we have an advisory committee and we're planning on doing things in different languages and doing a lot of outreach, because there isn't one park community and there isn't one park neighborhood. You know, we know that the park is used by a lot of different people for different reasons. And we want to figure out how to make those all work. And then make sure that people who don't, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit too, people who may not be aware of the park or may perceive it as not a safe place, how we're going to deal with that as well. So I think that's really important. One of the things I just wanted to mention, I know Mary Blizz, wherever she is down there on this list, mentioned this. You know, I think that, and I just wanted to say this because I think it's important. I don't know if anybody got to read the piece in the Inquirer yesterday that was in the paper about, and everyone should, about the neighborhoods in our city and gun violence and structural racism and poverty in very specific zip codes and neighborhoods in our city. And I think that everyone should be aware of that and concerned about it. But I also think that, and when Mary Blizz talked about a park that was close, I don't know where she lives, wherever she is there. I need to go back down. There you are. But, you know, I know that for many of our communities, access to a safe park is a really big issue. And Mary Blizz, you said, you know, a park that's close to you but is safe.
Right.
And that is a really big issue for the city. So I think that that's something we want to think about in terms of Tacony Creek Park too. You know, we're really fortunate because I think it is, you know, it's not a block within a neighborhood, and that has kept it safer. But, you know, there's still perception, and perception is reality. And there's still things that we know we need to address to make sure that people feel safe and are safe within the park. So that was a very long spiel, but I think that, you know, safety in the city is not just perception, it's reality. And we need to think about that and know how that's impacting people's lives and their decisions.
Absolutely. So while we're on that subject, let's skip ahead and talk about the community engagement stipends and kind of explain to those of us who just joined today what those are and why they're important. So Julie, I was hoping that maybe you could speak to this, or Sang if she would prefer. So
it's up to you.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to. You know me, I'm always happy to talk.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead then.
So I'm talking about the pilot projects?
No, right now I skipped over the pilot projects because I figure we're on this subject right now. That's more of really reaching out and trying to include and engage with these surrounding communities in a different way.
I think that Sang or Susan should talk about this because they've been working on it more closely than I have.
Sure.
So I can give a little overview of the thought behind putting this together, and then I'll let Susan kind of give us an update of where we are in the process. So we know that, you know, the park is a linear park that crosses many neighborhoods. And within that, we were looking at the language, just the income breakdown in the different neighborhoods. And it does seem, to everyone's point, that we need to kind of figure out a way to invite those who have been to the park and should return to the park, or, because I know in talking to Sarun, for example, that maybe at one point there was a large Khmer community that frequent the park, and at some point they were less frequent. So kind of understanding the reasons behind park users, I guess, retention, I'll call it, and connecting with more people to come to the park who haven't been to the park. And also just to understand sort of how people are using the park, because I think different communities use parks and open spaces differently. So the thought process behind us engaging with the community in a way that's more authentic, where we are meeting them where they're at, is I think oftentimes when you're researching or thinking about how to engage with folks, you are engaging with them when they're already in the park. And we're trying to meet with park users, potential park users outside of the park. So the thought is that we would partner with community organizations, groups, nonprofit, formal or informal, who would be able to connect us with the residents. And I think because we looked and we saw that there's so many different languages being spoken, so many different cultures, and even within for example, people who were born in Asia, for example, there's so many different ethnic groups represented in the area. So we knew that it was going to be a challenge. So this process is essentially going to help us, one, address some of those language barriers by connecting with community organizations who provide service to that specific group. I think we would be able to connect with them, have the trust, kind of gain their feedback in a way that is comfortable to where they're at. So going to meet them where they're at, whether that's where they frequently meet. And so this process is essentially going to say, for example, we're going to work with 4 to 5 different community organizations, groups. And by providing a stipend, it is a way for us to honor that it takes time and energy from these groups to be able to organize people. So for example, in the past, when we rolled something similar, it's a matter of them putting together a focus group or, having us come to their church after service. But with that, there has to be compensation for their time, for the space that they're using, just to accommodate for, childcare, food, et cetera, et cetera. So we were fortunate to get funding from the William Penn Foundation to provide a stipend to each of the organizations who are going to partner with us through this master plan process. So does anyone have any questions about the vision or the idea behind it before we get into where we are in the process? Okay, great. So could you give us a quick update of where we are in the process?
Yeah, sure. So I've been reaching out to various groups, some of which are on the advisory committee, to talk about this a little more directly. And we do have a couple groups who are going to work with us on this. Sang mentioned Sarun with the Cambodian Association of Greater Philadelphia. We know there's a very big Cambodian population that, plays volleyball on a field next to the park, but they don't go onto the trail. And so they're going to help with outreach and things like that, and translation is going to be very important. So we're reaching out to a few other groups, and happy to take suggestions from people if you know of a group that maybe we should reach out to, or if you want to talk and have your group be one of the stipend partners, we can definitely talk as well.
Great, thank you. Another key kind of program that we are involving in this master planning process is the idea of demonstration or pilot projects. So I was hoping that Julie or Susan could jump in and talk about the 2 projects that are just getting started and kind of give an update on where we are with those.
I am happy to do that. So these pilot projects are really wonderful because they will engage people during the process. You know, this is a long process, and you know, we want people to feel like they're getting somewhere and things are happening. And it's an interactive process. So we think this is the best, not the best part, but one of the best parts about the master plan. One of them. So we have 2 ideas for pilot projects, and these came from the community over time, you know, thinking about what people were interested in and sort of mushing some really great ideas together for what people was interested in. So the first one is sort of a project that meets 2 goals. One of them is that folks have been talking about locator signs for a very long time. You know, there's very little signage in the park as it is. Between the gateways, there isn't any signage, and you know, you can look behind you or in front of you and sometimes not see another person. And it's been very, you know, one of our challenges is that the park is about 7 police districts. So people want to be able to know where they are to contact the police and have the police able to find them if something happens. So we've been talking about locator signs for a long time. And then we've also been talking about, we've done some videos, and we can try to drop that into the chat if we can find them. We've done some videos that were sort of stories, people of the park videos of people who live near the park, to talk about what they love about the park, what's their thing, what do they like doing the most in the park. So we thought that this was a way of putting those together in through signage. So not through video, but through signage, where people will let us know. And I'm very excited because it sounded like the Albany Culture Lab is going to work on this. And Ambrose seems to understand what we're talking about, which is really great. Which is, you know, talking to people about what they love about the park and then creating some kind of art and signage that could be connected, that would be on a locator sign. One of the challenges, again, is that there aren't a lot of places to stick things in the park. That's always been one of our challenges. There aren't a lot of poles that you can put signs on. So it's hard to it's hard to communicate and post stuff. In this way, we would be getting locator signs in, but also having them tell a story and engage. You know, Maria Vasquez, her thing is that she loves taking her dog for a walk in the park, and somehow Ambrose figures out a beautiful artistic way for her to tell her story through signage. That's about as far as we have gotten with that. The second one is a nature discovery kit and sort of support. So we've done a bunch of different kind of nature walks in the park. And we are limited in terms of staff. We don't really have an environmental education staff yet, at least. But what we'd also like to do is really empower people to do their own, have a nature club with a couple of other families on the street, where a parent gets, a parent who's into this and likes to get their kids out, has access to some hands-on materials and some training to be able to do their own nature discovery within the park. So that's something else we're excited about. A little of it is based on Richard Louv, who's the man who wrote Last Child in the Woods. And he talks a lot about this. And then the Schuylkill Center also does a project like this, where people can come and pick up nature kits. We want to provide more support than just picking it up. We want to be able to connect people and really make it be more of a program.
Thank you so much, Julie, for those explanations. And these also, we were lucky enough to be funded by the William Penn Foundation for this. And that funder in particular was just so excited about this process, the pilot project process. And our other funder, DCNR, that's the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the Pennsylvania State, they weren't able to fund it simply because of their kind of funding setup, but they told us this was one of the reasons that they wanted to fund this, because they just thought this was such an innovative way to connect with the community and start engaging during the process. So this picture that we have on the right is not the kit. We're not there yet, but this is the example of what the Schuylkill Center is doing. So I just wanted to kind of show a general idea. Does anyone have any questions about the pilot projects or demonstration projects? You'll probably hear both terms interchangeably. Okay. All right, so then moving along just with updates, I'm gonna ask Ann Toole if she is on to talk about this. This is another aspect of our community outreach and a way to try to get as many people involved and providing input as possible.
I'll go for it here.
Sure.
We get some of our best ideas from the public and sometimes from the most surprising sources. So our outreach is really, really important. We have a very, very interesting platform for our outreach surveys, that they are very interactive, highly graphic with wonderful pictures of our park. And we've been getting really good responses. So we're going to be putting together a work session on what do we need to know from the public. What is it that we want in terms of new information? Maybe we want to confirm some things. And we're looking at everything, the physical layout of the trail, the programming, the partnership, support, concerns that people might have, out of the box ideas, a level of support, how important the trail is to them, how important the trail is to the quality of life in our service area. So we get really, really good feedback from this. So in our work session, we'll determine what it is that we want to know from the public. Then we will draft the survey. It's about 5 screens, has very interesting prioritization questions, open-ended questions, a few of those. We'll draft that and our team will come back together and go through the demonstration link and say, oh, this works, this doesn't work. Let's do this, that, and the other thing, and let's not do these 3 things. So even the development of the survey is very collaborative. So once we get that developed, we're looking at getting this out on the street by the 2nd week of November, which is ideal time for a survey. It's when people are hunkered down, but before the crazy holiday season. It's actually very perfect time. So between now and then is the development and the vetting of the survey. What is the biggest challenge is pushing it out. That we really we'll be developing a strategic promotional plan to increase public awareness about the survey and how critical it is, not only to the master plan, but Julie and Susan could use this for quite a while to show level of support in grant applications, with foundations, with federal and state funding. So it has a lot of meaning to it. We will do another, so on that push out, we'll be developing the strategic plan for it, but we need your help as well. Is that what we've found out is that the word of mouth on this is really important. Actually, Susan a funny story about the platform that we use. She participated in another survey and found the platform so interesting that she shared it on social media. So we're hoping to get the same thing, because what we're getting on these is a younger audience in terms of response rate. Typically, other kinds of surveys tend to skew towards older groups, but this, because it's highly interactive and graphic, we are getting really good input from younger people, which we value. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. This should be turned off. Oh, excuse me. So we're going to need your help. And the difference on this is I did a survey for a community like this, a community about 15,000 people, and we got 3,000 returns on it. Now I'm doing another survey up by State College, and the returns are kind of sparse. And I think that group is really not helping to push it out. So I know they're busy, and actually I kind of bugged them last week, please help us. And I noticed there was a big spike in returns. So we have several hundred back there. But I wanted to emphasize that we could do the best survey in the world, but unless we could push it out, it's not going to help us. So there's another part to this, is that we've had experience using this platform, and in lots of other kinds of surveys too. It's very, very challenging to get responses back in Spanish. There's a real reluctance in the community to fill anything out. So we're going to do a survey that will get us the same kind of information, but it will be in Spanish. So we'll need your help on that. And we do have, we have identified some people that we're going to ask specific help with. So there'll be actually 2 surveys going out. Hopefully we'll capture the Hispanic community as well in this. So anybody have any thoughts or questions?
I think just to add to that, Anne, with these community stipends, another possibility is asking for help in those communities who may speak other languages to either answer all of the questions, some of the questions, that kind of thing. So we'll just have to work with those community leaders to figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point, Karen. We would definitely do that. I'm sure that in addition to Spanish, we have a number of other native languages that, and if we could tap into those, we would love to do that. That would be really important.
All right. Thank you so much, Anne.
Sure.
And then
Karen, Kiasha has her hand raised again.
Karen is muted.
Apologizing. Hey.
Okay, it's okay. I just had 2 questions, and I apologize in advance if I missed it. There is a community group in Melrose Park, which borders the creek. Will you all do will you all do presentations about this master plan at community meetings? And sorry if I missed that, and if so, we can connect there. And then with regard to the survey, is there going to be a team, will there be a team that maybe go to other events to execute the survey?
So to answer the first part of the question, we definitely have, as part of this outreach and engagement, focus groups. So if, Kiashi, you think that the Melrose Park community is one that we should be speaking with, absolutely give us that feedback, and we're going to be taking all of those recommendations and kind of figuring out what is feasible and what is realistic. So that is great. And we really appreciate that input. So any other groups or individuals, we would love recommendations for who to speak with.
Okay, is the Longcrest Community Association?
I am not sure. I'm not keeping that list. So Longcrest Community? I think we lost you. Hold on.
I'm muted, sorry.
Okay.
I'll send them both to Susan's Longcrest, and then it's UNC3, but I don't know what the acronym means. But the creek runs, well, you all already know, it runs through the Longcrest community. So I think like they would be, and they recently did a cleanup along Snake Road, which feeds a lot of trash into the creek. So I'll send that information to Susan so that we can connect you to those groups, and then maybe that'll be a way to reach people who also don't use the creek, because a lot of the people that I know from those groups, I don't think they use the creek area enough.
Okay,
That's really
great.
helpful. That's what we
Yep.
need.
Yep, absolutely.
Longcrest should be on our list, but that really helps.
And then your second question about getting the survey out by going to different events. So just the reality is that there are only 5 of us. This is a really limited budget for this. So we are hoping to use other means, kind of a network, a spider web that just kind of shoots out so that it's starting with us, with our group right here, and then kind of spreading outwards, because we just can't attend every meeting, although we'll do our best. We'll do our best to figure out key events to go to. Julie, were you just about to say something, or Anne?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, TTF is at a lot of events. So even though the natural lands team is not gonna be able to be at everything, we'll have information and materials at everything. And we're planning to make sure that like the people who lead our walking group are able to talk to people and have the information to refer people. So people who are out and about, this is one of the things they need to be talking to people about when they run into them.
I want to hop in too, please. Oh, could you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't. My screen is weird. I'm only showing right now John Buffington's name. So thanks. So I want to hop onto what Julie just said, is that we make this link available to different groups. So as you alluded to there, that there are other opportunities, and Julie mentioned that TTF's at a lot of those, is that what we do is we coordinate that with those providers to give them the link and they open it up. For example, we did this and it worked really well with a senior center where not everybody had either access or felt comfort in being able to do an online survey. And because we gave the link to the center director, we got a really great response from that community center because they left the computer open with that link for a week. So we got really good response. So there are ways, because it is online and we have the link, and it's easy for us to do that. So if we know that there is like a senior center or anything else like that, we could really make that available. We have seen this, we've done this at events where iPads are open with the link on it. So there are ways of doing this without us being there if we know what's going on, and we could coach the person through opening their link and getting people engaged to do that.
Now, do you all have like talking points for the advisory committee members, just in case like we want to, so like if you all can't come to the UNC meeting, but UNC3 meeting, but someone from our staff attends, we can, if we're provided talking points, we can share the information that way and then hand out any resources or, link information and be a representative of the master plan. Again, if you all have talking points, that could also help and better use the committee members.
Kiasha, that's a great idea. I do not have talking points written at this moment, but if that is something that would be helpful, absolutely, we can come up with that. It's a great idea. Okay.
Just adding to that, like a social media toolkit would be really helpful once the online survey comes out, which might already be on your radar, but we would make great use of that.
Yes, we'll provide that.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you all so much. That's great.
This is something that we can work with you on too. Like we have in our state college survey, actually, we just did this in Delaware County. And I don't know if any of you go to their concert series because it's really fabulous. And we hung some banners up in the park with the QR code to the survey and the link to the survey, and we got a really good response in only 6 concerts. So we could think about that if you would want to do anything like that. Posting the QR code and the link at strategic points in the park.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, that's great feedback. I appreciate that. We all do. In terms of timeline, just to give you all an idea of the entire process and where we're at right now. This slide kind of summarizes things. So we did have the project kickoff in May. There was a big event in the park. The mayor spoke. Councilwoman Sherelle Parker spoke. She was great. And then we had our first advisory committee meeting in June. These meetings will continue roughly quarterly through November of next year. So you've signed up for the long haul, but not too much of a long haul because this is actually a really fast-tracked master planning process. It is only 17 months total from official kickoff, although you don't want to know everything that went behind the scenes before the kickoff actually happened. So this has been going on for a while longer before the official kickoff. But in terms of other key meetings and milestones, we have our first public meeting in November. So that will be our next meeting. Do we have that exact day nailed down, Susan?
We do not. We were thinking sometime the week of November 8th, but we don't have a specific date yet.
All right, so mid-November will be the public meeting, the first public meeting, where we're presenting the master plan to everyone, letting them know what's going on, showing that site analysis. And then there will be 2 other public meetings, one kind of midway in the process, and then a third to present the draft final master plan. So all along, we are not only getting information from you as advisory committee members, but we're also gathering public feedback in a whole variety of ways. So specific meetings, focus groups, focus interviews, the online citizen survey, all these things that we've just talked about. So there is this ongoing process of involvement. The citizen survey is going to launch in November, and that will continue through the following year, allowing people to provide their input and feedback. Public outreach, all those other items we've already talked about, that's going to go on through most likely next September. And then the demonstration projects that we talked about, the planning has already begun. Obviously, we've given you the ideas and where we're at. And that planning will most likely go through March of next year, and then implementation, so that we have an entire kind of season. And I know in Philadelphia, the seasons are very fluid. Who knows when spring is going to start next year? But the idea would be that people are most likely using the park most spring, summer. So we want those programs to be in place for that, so that we can start gathering that information of how people are using those, if they're successful, if it's bringing more people to the park, and making the park more integral to people's lives. So that is the implementation, and that's starting in April, and it'll be ongoing for as long as they can be in place. And finally, the master plan completion. And what by completion, that would be the graphics, the narrative would be given to the city of Philadelphia and accepted and adopted by the city. And then they would have this packaged master plan that could be utilized for access to funding sources, that type of thing. So that is our current timeline, that everything is wrapped up by December. And that December date is what is influencing the kind of end of public outreach and that citizen survey in September, because we need time to synthesize all that input and gather it into this final report. So does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have questions about the timeline? Concerns? Okay, great. So then basically we've already covered this earlier, kind of within the whole presentation and discussion, but I did want to cover again how you all are so integral to this process, and the aid and assistance that you're going, and guidance that you are going to provide to us as the planning team moving forward. So this is a big project. It's enormous. It's not only the park itself. When we applied for this funding, the city also wanted us to include what's called the Frankfurt Creek Greenway, which is partially constructed, but also partially still just a plan. And that is the image that's on the lower right. The way you connect it with the park is if you take that Tacony Creek Park map on the left and you turn it roughly 90 degrees, you'll see the golf course is kind of that darker green area in the map on the lower right, excuse me. So the Frankfurt Creek Greenway is a multi-purpose trail that is traveling from the base of Tacony Creek Park all the way out to the Delaware River. And it's undergone quite a few years of planning, and the basic layout of where that trail will go is already kind of set, and it still has to be implemented, most of it. But the city wanted us to take a look at this as well, because it is traveling through neighborhoods that aren't necessarily neighborhoods. This is a lot of commercial, a lot of industrial. It's not possible to have the trail follow along the Frankfurt Creek the entire way, simply because of the reality of built structures and ownership. So it is kind of a piecemeal trail, and part of this plan is also to try to engage people with that trail as well. So it is a big project that we're looking on. A lot needs to be accomplished within that 17-month period, and you are so important towards that successful completion. So a few things that we would love from you, that we need from you, is your feedback and input personally. And part of that is actually getting out into the park and experiencing it and becoming familiar with it if you're not already. We wanted to let you all know of opportunities where you could go out to the park. And I was going to turn it over to Susan because she can talk more about very specific opportunities. kind of guided events. But there's also, if you are not interested in participating in those and you'd rather go out on your own, that is fine. We welcome that, and we can provide you with maps and guidance in form of questions or a checklist. So let's just talk about it and the best way to get you out into the park so you can start building those experiences and that database of information.
Yeah, so as Julie mentioned a little earlier, we do have the monthly stakeholder walks, which are usually the first Friday of every month. But again, we can also schedule at some other time that's more accommodating. I wasn't sure, we did, the walk last month, I think. What is time anymore? And we weren't sure if a weekend would be more convenient. So if that would be more convenient, let us know. And then, we'd be happy to do it on the weekend. And then also we do have regular events and programs that we encourage you all to try and come out to. This is our calendar. It's ttfwatershed.org/events. It's this very handy calendar. We have a regular running group. They go out for runs pretty early in the morning. On Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, we have a walking group that's on Mondays and Saturday mornings. We have yoga on Sunday, but that's a little on pause for the moment. Our yoga teacher is dealing with some personal issues. And then also we have a weekly cleanup on Wednesdays. We do a cleanup on the second Saturday of every month. And we have other programs on October 2nd, which is a few Saturdays from now. We're having a fall festival and concert of, let me pull it up here.
Just gonna jump in. So that's a really big event. We had a movie night on Friday night that was attended by probably about 125 people. October 2nd is a big fall festival. We've never done this before. We always wanted to do this. It's a partnership with the Albany Culture Lab. So there'll be a lot of fun activities, including pumpkin painting and some really wonderful hands-on art activities. With our intertwined benches, we'll be doing photos with those again. What are they called? The sort of the nice portrait photos with those again. So we're excited about that. We have a lot of partners coming, and it's from 1 to 6 on the 2nd, and I got 1 to 5, and 3 to 5 is the concert. And that's the concert that's based by Professor Gibson and local artists based on the Tacony Creek Park. So we would love to have people come to that. It's an event that is now part of River Days. It's part of a bunch of other sort of bigger things happening in the area. So we're hoping that the word really gets out. But I think this is a great opportunity for people to see the kind of people that come out and the kind of opportunities that are on those park spaces adjacent to the park. And then October 16th, we have a planting that we'll be doing with Parks and Recreation between Rising Sun and Tabor. We're not exact, it's a big area. Aylin will be telling us where we're going to meet people. So that's a planting, and that's actually in partnership with Riverfront North, with our partners on the other side near the Frankfurt Creek Greenway. That's a partnership. We're going to be planting 50 trees, 50 native trees and shrubs in that area. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to come out and bring all your friends and your family. Everybody is always welcome. I mean, you can come and help, you can take a walk around, you can paint a pumpkin. It's up to you. We just love to see you.
But basically get familiar with the park, the people that are using the park, the organizations that are involved in the park, because it really is this great community. Other things that we would just love from you all as advisory committee members is just telling us what you've heard. If you talk with someone about the park and you hear some interesting information or even not interesting information, we'll take anything. Just get back to us and let us know. It's just always interesting hearing other people's perspectives, and all of that is going to guide us towards this master plan of what the park can be and should be to the community around it. Also advise us on what we should be asking the general public. So as we are developing this online survey, as we're developing our focus group interviews, that kind of thing, if there are ideas that you think are key, let us know, and we will bring that into our talking points. Yasha, we'll just bring it into the discussion and provide us feedback, just like Kiasha did earlier, on who we should be talking with. These can be people, organizations, anyone, business owners in the area. We are definitely looking for information. And finally, just spreading the word. So anything that you can do to talk about the park, talk about TTF and what they're doing in terms of events, in terms of the master plan, the public meeting that's coming up. Once we've settled on that date, if you could spread that around. And finally, when we have the online survey, letting people know about that online survey, providing the link to other organizations that you're in touch with or other people, that would be incredibly useful for us moving forward. So are there any questions? I think we're kind of wrapping up a half an hour early, which is always nice.
Karen, I think Chris has a question.
Yep. Oh, hey, Chris, I saw the hand has appeared.
Hi. Yeah, it's not quite a question. I wasn't quite sure the right place to put this, but so with the GIS team, I just wanted to make you aware that about 2.5, 3 years ago, we began the process of trying to get locator signs installed in Tacony. At this point, we know where we want them to go, and we have gotten approval or preliminary approval from dispatch, fire, and EMS. Then the pandemic hit. And so those locator signs have not been installed at this point. So just so you're aware, there is a plan to get them installed along the main spine of the Tacony Trail, all the way from what PPR considers are at the Philadelphia city line, all the way down. I don't think that we currently go into Juniata, the golf course area. We may stop a bit short of there. However, so at some point, I guess poles will eventually be installed and signs will actually be there with numbers for you that will be recognized by dispatch. When that occurs, I currently do not have a time frame at this point.
Wow, that's so interesting. And lovely to hear.
Yeah.
Can you send us where those will go?
I can absolutely send it to you. Would you like it to everybody on the email chain, or just you and Karen, Julie, or just to you, Julie, and then you can get it to the right people?
Why don't you just send it to me and I'll get it to the right people? And
Sounds
what's holding it up?
I honestly don't know. I believe I was going to ask a while back about the signs and just the status of them. I was awaiting for them to be installed because my team would then have to verify that they were installed in the accurate location that matches with what we promised at dispatch. At this point, I believe it was the pandemic. I know we had budget cuts. I think that those might have been on that, but I don't know where it stands today. So I will, Julie, what I will do is I will talk to our operations, deputy of operations. I will also get you, I'll see if I can get an answer or put you in contact with her and send you that map.
Thank you. And to whoever.
Could we please see what one of those signs will look like?
Sure. We have, I mean, it's a standard locator sign, John. They're Parks and Recreation standard locator signs.
Okay.
But we can share that too. So I don't know how this got initiated and how this happened, but thank you very much. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, no problem.
That is amazing news. Chris, when we were talking about this last week, we were all excited about this opportunity, but worried about the fact that there was the permitting aspect, the pole locations, that kind of thing. So this is definitely moving things forward. Thanks, Kiasha. So I look forward to seeing what you send over.
Okay.
So any other questions or comments right now?
That made my day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess the next event will be the mid-November public meeting. And then in terms of homework, because everyone loves homework, in terms of homework, just continue thinking about what we want from the general public to help inform our direction, and visit the park in any way that you can and you're comfortable with, so that you can provide us feedback of your experience. And that's about it. We're so grateful that you are all here and willing to be part of this whole process. It's an important one. This park needs this and it deserves it. And it's been a long time coming. That's it.
Karen, I did want to mention that Julie put the website for where the master plan updates are going to be housed in the keepers page. So maybe when we send out an email follow-up, we can include this in the email.
Okay.
Just so everyone can kind of stay in touch and direct people here in the meantime.
And so you know that there is a keepers page. So that's the Tacony Creek Park page. It's a few years old. We just did some reshuffling and did some new things to it. It is courtesy the William Penn Foundation. There wasn't a page for the park until a few years ago, and they provided support for us for this. There's a really good map there, and you can look and see, there's a lot of other really good stuff, resources, stories. So you can see a bunch of the programs that have happened. So please, you know, I know everybody's really busy, but take a minute and look through that page. There's some great stuff on there.
All right.
Was it mentioned that there's a concert and Fall Festival on October 2nd?
Yes, we did.
Yes, Ambrose.
Actually, we're also, Professor Gibson and I, we're being interviewed by WRTI tomorrow, and will be broadcast Friday at some time during the show from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. So if you're one of those late night jazz folks like to hang out and listen, that's when we'll be on, or that's when the interview will get broadcast.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much. TTF and Anne and Sang, would you mind staying on just for 2 extra minutes?
Yep.
All right. Everyone else, we will be in touch about the November meeting and as follow-up. And thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Oh, we're still recording. Do you care?
Let me turn that off.